The marble lobby fell silent as bank executives laughed at the woman in running clothes and a baseball cap. Vanessa Mitchell stood calmly as they denied her ownership claim. "This bank isn't for sale to someone like you?" the manager sneered with contempt. What they didn't know was that Vanessa's husband had already purchased it, and when he walked through those doors, their laughter would turn to shock. Emma rushed through the gleaming marble lobby of the prestigious financial institution, her simple cotton dress and practical flats starkly contrasting with the surrounding opulence. She needed to meet Michael before his meeting, but the document in her worn leather bag couldn't wait. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished surfaces, while well-dressed patrons lounged in plush seating areas. Two elegantly attired women at the premium services desk glanced her way, their eyes narrowing with unmistakable judgment. One whispered behind a manicured hand, causing the other to smirk. "Can I help you find the regular teller line?" asked a staff member, clearly assuming she didn't belong in this exclusive section. Emma straightened her shoulders. "I need to speak with the branch manager. Please. It's urgent." More stares followed as she waited. Few recognized her as the wife of Michael Hartwell, one of the most powerful financial magnates in the city. She could feel the disdain surrounding her, like a cold draft. Little did they know, these judgmental glances were about to transform into expressions of utter shock. Emma stood at the velvet rope separating the regular customers from the elite banking services area. A security guard eyed her worn leather bag and simple outfit with unmistakable suspicion. "Excuse me?" Emma said quietly. "I need to speak with the branch manager." The guard exchanged a knowing glance with a nearby teller. "Do you have an appointment?" "This section is for premium clients only." "I don't, but it's important." "I won't take much time," Emma replied, acutely aware of the stares from well-dressed patrons nearby. A woman in a tailored suit and diamond earrings whispered to her friend, "They really should screen who they let in these days. Look at those shoes." Her companion giggled, not bothering to lower her voice. Maybe she took a wrong turn looking for the discount store across the street. Emma felt her cheeks flush, but maintained her composure. She'd been taught by her grandmother that true worth wasn't measured by appearances. Still, the sting of judgment hung heavy in the air. The bank manager finally emerged. Vivian Hull, a woman whose reputation for catering to the ultra-wealthy was matched only by her disdain for those she deemed beneath her station. "I understand you need assistance." Vivian's voice dripped with artificial politeness, while her eyes conveyed a different message entirely. "Yes, I'd like to purchase a special anniversary gift. I need access to—" "I see," Vivian interrupted, raising a perfectly manicured hand. "Regular banking services are available at the main counter." She gestured toward the crowded area where lines of customers waited. "That's not what I need," Emma persisted. "I'm here to arrange for a special purchase that requires—" "Ma'am," Vivian's voice hardened as she stepped closer. "Let me be clear. Our premium services are exclusively for clients with significant portfolios. The jewelry store down the block might have something more appropriate for your budget." A small crowd had gathered now, watching the exchange with barely concealed interest. Two women near the coffee station weren't even trying to hide their amusement. "Is there a problem here?" asked Rebecca Thornton, the bank's vice president, approaching with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "This lady insists on premium services access," Vivian explained with exaggerated patience. Rebecca surveyed Emma's appearance with a dismissive glance. "Perhaps we're not communicating clearly. This section serves clients with accounts exceeding 7 figures." "I understand, but if you just check—" "Frankly," Rebecca cut in, her voice rising to ensure others could hear, "we have clients waiting who actually belong here. Security can direct you to the appropriate service area." The security guard stepped forward, hand extended toward Emma's elbow. "Please, don't touch me," Emma said firmly, her voice quiet but unwavering. "Listen," Rebecca hissed, leaning in close enough that Emma could smell her expensive perfume. "People like you waste our time every day. The difference between you and our actual clients is as obvious as that department store dress you're wearing." Vivian smirked. Perhaps she thought dressing simply would help her blend in with the real elite. "They do say wealth whispers. In her case, poverty shouts," Rebecca replied, triggering open laughter from several onlookers. Emma stood rooted to the spot, dignity intact despite the humiliation burning through her. She clutched her bag tighter as the security guard placed his hand firmly on her shoulder. "I think it's time for you to leave," he said. Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. Today was supposed to be special, their 5th anniversary. For months, she'd been planning to surprise Michael with a rare vintage watch from this bank's exclusive vault services, a piece with sentimental value that reminded him of his late father. Now, her heartfelt surprise was crumbling into public humiliation. The beautiful moment she had imagined countless times had transformed into her worst nightmare as curious onlookers watched her being escorted out like a criminal. Just as the guard began leading her toward the exit, the bank's massive glass doors swung open and a hush fell over the entire lobby. But what happened next, nobody was prepared for. The glass doors swung open with such force that several people turned. Michael Hartwell stood in the entrance, the morning light silhouetting his commanding figure. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his expression darkening as he assessed the scene before him. The bank fell silent. Every conversation died mid-sentence. Michael didn't rush. He walked with measured, deliberate steps across the marble floor, each footfall echoing through the now silent lobby. Even those who didn't recognize him immediately sensed the shift in power. Something in his bearing commanded absolute attention. Rebecca's smug smile faltered. Vivian straightened her posture, instinctively smoothing her blazer. The security guard's hand dropped from Emma's shoulder as if it had suddenly burned him. "Sir, we were just," the guard began. "Remove your hand from my wife." Michael's voice was quiet, but carried the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Rebecca blanched. "Mr. Hartwell, we didn't realize." Clearly, the single word sliced through her stammering like a blade. Vivian stepped forward, her face a mask of desperate damage control. "Mr. Hartwell, had we known Mrs. Hartwell was your wife—" "That's precisely the problem, isn't it?" Michael interrupted, his gaze boring into her. "You believe respect is something to be rationed based on bank balances and designer labels." The branch president appeared from his office, practically running across the floor. "Michael, I just heard you were here. Is everything all right?" "No, James, it isn't." Michael turned to face the gathering crowd. "I witnessed my wife being humiliated by your staff who ironically managed portions of my family's portfolio." Rebecca's face drained of all color as she recognized the magnitude of her error. "Michael," Emma said softly, touching his arm. He covered her hand with his, but his eyes remained fixed on the two women who had moments ago been so cruelly dismissive. "Now," he said, "let's discuss what happens next." The bank lobby felt colder than before. The once oppressive silence had lifted, replaced by hushed murmurs and the hum of realization. Employees who had watched in silence now exchanged uncertain glances, as if seeing the institution and themselves through new eyes. Vivian and Rebecca stood frozen, their faces pale. The power they had wielded so carelessly was gone in an instant, leaving them exposed. Rebecca opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. There was nothing left to say. Emma glanced at them, her gaze steady but devoid of malice. She didn't need their apology. Their humiliation wasn't her victory. Her strength was. As she and Michael stepped outside, the crisp autumn air felt liberating. The moment they crossed the threshold, it was over. Emma exhaled, letting go of any lingering tension. She had never needed revenge. She had always been enough. Weeks later, an article swept through social media. The Power of Respect, a billionaire's lesson on dignity. It chronicled the events of that day not as a scandal, but as a turning point. Discussions erupted across the finance world about class bias and the quiet strength of those underestimated. The bank, desperate to recover from the PR disaster, announced a sweeping reform of its customer service policies. More than just damage control, it was a reckoning. And Rebecca and Vivian? Rebecca, once so proud of her status, found herself blacklisted from the world she had worked so hard to impress. The high-end circles she had once navigated with ease now whispered behind her back. No amount of designer suits could erase the memory of her downfall. Vivian, however, took a different path. She had seen the fear in her own reflection that day, not fear of losing status, but fear of realizing how shallow her values had been. She quietly stepped away from the corporate world, taking a position at a local credit union. For the first time, she listened to the people she had once ignored. Weeks later, an article swept through social media. The Power of Respect, a billionaire's lesson on dignity. It chronicled the events of that day, not as a scandal, but as a turning point. Discussions erupted across the finance world about class bias and the quiet strength of those underestimated. The bank, desperate to recover from the PR disaster, announced a sweeping reform of its customer service policies. More than just damage control, it was a reckoning. And Rebecca and Vivian? Rebecca, once so proud of her status, found herself blacklisted from the world she had worked so hard to impress. The high-end circles she had once navigated with ease now whispered behind her back. No amount of designer suits could erase the memory of her downfall. Vivian, however, took a different path. She had seen the fear in her own reflection that day, not fear of losing status, but fear of realizing how shallow her values had been. She quietly stepped away from the corporate world, taking a position at a local credit union. For the first time, she listened to the people she had once ignored. As for Emma, her life remained unchanged, except now the world knew her name, not as Michael Hartwell's wife, but as a woman of power in her own right. And as she stood by the window of their penthouse that evening, watching the city lights flicker below, she smiled, because respect wasn't something money could buy. It was something she had always carried within her. Tell me, where are you watching from? I love knowing where our community is from, so drop your city, state, or country in the comments. Our stories connect people from across the globe, and it's amazing to see how universal these experiences truly are.